Dr. Jere here with Mills Chiropractic and Wellness Center. And this month we have really been just hammering home on chronic pain and medications and opioids in particular. And as we start to wrap this month up, I just kind of wanted to do a quick review with you, kind of run back through some of the key points, and then also, kind of take a call to action, if you will, right? This issue with pain medications and just kind of this whole chronic pain paradigm. One of the things that happened is about 30 years ago, the medical community really shifted on how they thought about pain and how it should be addressed. Pain is the fifth vital sign was kind of the mantra at the time. And again, I know this was 30 years ago. However, I've been in practice long enough that I know this was the paradigm as I was going through school, right? I'm dating myself a little bit, but there became this real big push to develop medications and develop ways to block pain, because pain all of a sudden kind of became the primary focus of care rather than trying to figure out how to address the problem, right? Pain was the problem, not the problem being the problem. We kind of lost sight of that. And so a lot of medications were developed, and each medication kind of built on the last, right? Well, it's slightly better than the previous one at blocking pain. This one's slightly better. And ultimately we got to this whole opioid epidemic over the last number of decades, but it's really been building slowly over time, with Tylenol and NSAIDs and Celebrex and Vioxx, this new breakthrough drug, right? And then we'd find out that it had all these side effects, and we'd act all shocked, like, oh man, we went tinkering with physiology and we're surprised that there's adverse outcomes when this happens, right? And the other problem was in order to achieve the same results, you kept having to take higher and higher medications or more and more powerful ones in order to get to the pain under control. And this was considered success, right? Rather than somebody saying, well, wait a second, are we actually addressing the problem? And that was never the case. I would like to think, science can move quicker than this. However, it was hundreds of thousands of deaths before we started to look at opioids, right? And it really wasn't up until about the last 5 or 10 years that we really started to rethink this whole pain being the problem concept, and really kind of got back to the basics. And what pretty much everybody across the board, all major healthcare disciplines, FDA, the CDC, are all in agreement that the best way to deal with pain is with movement and rehabilitation and addressing the issue from the get-go rather than trying to cover up the symptoms. Now, I'm not saying that there's never a time and place for these medications. However, the problem is when we start down a pain medication pathway initially, it really sets the stage a lot of times to make it more difficult on the back end to come back and let's try to fix the problem, right? This was one of the major flaws with our old paradigm, is that we would try medicine first. If that didn't work, well then, good luck, maybe go try a chiropractor or somebody, and what the research really is saying over and over and over again is you really got to get movement, and movement-based therapies are really that first stage before we move into some of these other stages. And so, as we kind of wrap this up in this last piece of it, and we talk about pain, the new model for pain now is that it's what's called a biopsychosocial model. Really what that means is that pain is complex. Pain can affect us in all sorts of ways, and we can get help in all sorts of ways, whether that's biology or biomechanics or physiology, or social, or emotional. All these things, they can all play a role, and they can all help, and they can reduce this dependency that we have on pain medication in our country, and especially on these opioids, before this cycle gets to that point, right? And so I want to invite everybody, there's so many people that are literally dying in our community every single day from opioids. And people are starting down pathways that they really don't want to be stuck on, but they just don't know better, right? And so that's one of the reasons that we provide this information. I've gotten a ton of good feedback this month. A lot of things that patients have said they got something from it, or thank you for doing these, thank you for taking the time. And you know, the truth is, one of the reasons I do this is because I really do enjoy educating people. And this topic, all of them are important, right? But this one in particular truly does have life and death consequences. And so please talk to people. Give them my number, send them to a chiropractor, send them to a physical therapist, send them somewhere that you know that they're going to get help. Because one of the issues with this, with the pain model, and I think one of the reasons that, I think we do a good job in my clinic in taking care of patients, is really in order to get to that biopsychosocial piece of it, you really got to understand what's important to the patient, and each patient is important, right? And getting to that level is where you get to see some breakthroughs when it comes to pain and recovery and moving forward with their best life. So anyway, I hope you got something from this. I hope you've enjoyed this month, even though it's kind of a tough topic, right? But I hope you've learned. I hope I've made you think a little bit. That's always one of my goals as well. So until next time, stay healthy, stay well.